I'm impressed that you came for part 2. Thanks, you won't be disappointed. In the first lesson, we quickly built an app. In this lesson, we'll customize it to get exactly what we want, a wedding coordinator app. Like before, these are easy steps, step by step, of how to build a low-code app. Ready? From the way we created the app, we have 3 screens: Browse screen, Detail screen, and Edit screen. First thing we need to do is save our work by clicking the Save icon in the top right. Give your app a meaningful name, Wedding Communication. I'll shorten that to Wedding Com. So what are the items stacked between the screens, controls, and galleries? Whether you realize it or not, you've seen these before on your phone and in online sites like LinkedIn. At the center of our screen is the canvas, and like a painter's canvas, we're working on a Canvas app. Our first screen has a gallery, Browse Gallery 1, and has controls layered within it. As I click on each one, you can see that control on the canvas. When developing your app, if you need to edit your data source, you don't have to exit the app. Just click the data icon on the left. To the right of your data source, click the ellipse, then Edit Data. I'll identify a bride and groom. When you're done, click Close. In the first video, we created a table for colors, but not a table for brides and grooms. We'll do that now. Save your work, Ctrl S, then click back to exit the app. Click Tables on the left, New Table at the top, create new tables, then start from blank. Rename the table Bride and Groom. Edit the existing column and rename it Type. Update. Then enter the 2 types, Bride, Groom. Save and exit the table. Like before, we'll bring this table into our contacts table as a lookup. Edit, plus icon to create a new column. Name the column Bride or Groom Type. Change the data type to Lookup, then choose the Bride and Groom table. This new column will be at the end on the far right, so to make it easier for development, we want to move it left and next to the existing Bride or Groom column. Just drag and drop, scroll left, then repeat. The reason we moved it is so we can correctly duplicate the existing bride and groom entries before deleting the old column. If condensed, expand the original column to ensure you delete the correct column. Hit the drop-down arrow, then choose Delete Column. With that done, we'll create some collections. Even though we can connect directly to the data, creating a collection helps your app perform better. Why is that? Imagine some volunteers cleaning up trash on a beach. They pick up what they find, then store the trash in a bag. The bag is literally a local storage space that holds items temporarily during the cleanup. A collection is also temporary storage space that keeps your data in your app and is only available when you run the app. This creates faster performance. So how do we do this? It's very simple. We'll add the formula to create a collection when the app starts. Go back into your app. There are 2 types of collections. Collect, which adds data to the collection without removing existing data, and Clear Collect, which clears all data in a collection then adds new data. It does not delete data from your data source, just a temporary collection. That's the one we want. Above your first screen in the tree view, click App. Above App in the Properties dropdown, choose On Start. To the right in the formula bar, we'll create a formula to pull all contact entries that have either bride or groom in our new lookup column. Clear, which removes the data from the collection. Collect, which adds new data into the collection. Open parenthesis. Cole bride groom, that's a descriptive name I chose for our collection. First in, the first record. Open parenthesis. Filter, open parenthesis, our data source, contacts, comma, single quote, the name of the first column, close single quote, dot type, equals, open double quote, bride, close double quote, pipe, which means or, then repeat the last condition but put groom in double quotes. Close parenthesis, comma, 2000 for 2000 records, then close parenthesis. Like our beach cleanup volunteers, there's no trash in the trash bag yet or no data in the collection. So let's fill it up. Click the three dots next to App, click Run on Start. This refreshes the connection. Double click on Cole bride groom. Now the data shows 2 records. Click on the gallery. Since our gallery came pre-built with a formula, we need to tell it to pull in from the collection we just made. For the items property in the formula bar, you'll see a formula for sorting the data. Replace the data source with our collection name, Cole bride groom. Make sure you delete both square brackets from the beginning and the end. Until you do, you'll see red errors on the canvas. As you can see, we only have 2 entries of what we identified as a bride and a groom. In the left tree view, double-click the name of the gallery and give it a meaningful name. Rename it with no spaces, Gallery, Bride, and Groom. For the control, label app name 1, the text reads Contacts on the screen. Click on it once. Then for the text property, change the label inside the quotes to brides and grooms. Save your work. To create versioning of your app, click the publish icon. Then click Publish this version. You can rename any of the controls on the screen. Let's rename the screen Main Screen. The client's image client. We'll reset its size by changing the width, then the height to 200. These controls for the first entry or item sit inside a template and are repeated for each entry. So let's click on a blank space in the template, then decrease the template's height. Rename the text label called Body to Label Address. The text label called Title to Label Name. In the formula bar, erase everything after this item, including the dot. Re-enter the dot and IntelliSense will bring up the list of properties that can be shown in this control. Begin typing full name, then hit the tab key to use full name. This part isn't complicated. We're going to talk about formulas and X and Y coordinates for where controls sit on the screen. In the right properties pane, click the X. Replace the coordinate with 25. That's 25 pixels from the left edge of the template. For our brides and grooms label, we need to concatenate it with the count of entries in our collection. Inside of the ending double quote, add a space. Outside of the quote, add ampersand, count rows, close parenthesis, the name of our gallery, dot, all items, close parenthesis. Inside the closing double quote after grooms, add an open parenthesis. Back to the end of the formula, ampersand, open quote, close parenthesis, close quote. In the Write Properties pane, adjust the font size to something smaller. Next step, we want to associate the bride with the correct groom. Let's go to our data source and add a single line of text column called Wedding Party. Move it left and to the right of bride or groom type. Also, add groom and bride to another pair of contacts. Use groom's full name for the wedding party and enter it for both the bride and groom. Click Close to return to our app. We need to refresh the collection, but rather than app run on start, we'll paste our formula somewhere else. To the screens on visible properties, so whenever you switch screens and return to our main screen, the collection refreshes. Now you can see we have 4 individuals. Awesome! Next up, we want to create a distinct collection of wedding parties from our previous collection. In our app, go to the end of the first formula. Enter a semicolon, then create the formula you see here. In our data source, we made 4 entries for wedding party. By using a distinct filter, this formula will bring in 2 entries because there are 2 distinct wedding parties. Exclamation means not, so the exclamation is blank means when that column is not blank. We'll run the app on start, then check the collection. Nice. We'll use this collection in a dropdown. In the global menu at the top, choose Insert, Dropdown. We'll position the X and Y in a moment. For now, let's see the items property to our distinct wedding party collection by simply entering the collection name. To test it, hold down the Alt key and click the drop-down arrow icon. Perfect! Let's rename the drop-down Wedding Parties. We want the drop-down to sit relationally beneath the search box and the gallery to sit relationally beneath the drop-down. Go to the gallery's Y property and copy the formula, then paste it to the drop-down's Y property. Next, change the gallery's Y property from the search control to the dropdown. Now set the dropdown's width to be the same as the screen. Set the X to 0 so that it's flush to the left. We also want the dropdown to start with blank. I'll show you what doesn't work, then what does work. Changing the default entry to wedding parties. Nope. Putting no text. Almost, but not yet. Here's what works. Step 1. In the Properties dropdown, go to Allow Empty Selection and change False to True. Hold that thought for now. Just for a moment, let's preview the app. Click the top right play icon to see how it looks so far. Blank dropdown yet? Nope. We'll get to step 2 soon. Back to edit mode. Let's edit filtering the gallery. Click on the gallery. In the items property, we see some errors with a red underline. I had an error and all I needed to do was add a semicolon at the end of my first block of code. Don't do that. Just make sure what you see here matches what you have in your first block of code. This formula filters the individuals that match the text in both the search box or the dropdown. So instead of 4 entries, we only see 2. Great! Step 2. Click on your text search box. For the on-change properties, enter reset, open parenthesis, the name of your dropdown, close parenthesis. This changes the drop-down text to the default blank. Also on change, we want to reset the gallery. So add a semicolon, reset, open parenthesis, the name of your gallery, close parenthesis. Let's preview the app.
This right here is my favorite thing ever. In the history of forever. I think about this every day. I think about this all night long. I stay awake, not sleeping, because I'm thinking about this.
We can even add a clear feature to the control. We also need the drop-down to reset the search box on change. Very nice. As for the drop-down's default, instead of 2 double quotes, change that to blank, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. If you still have your original formula in the items property of the gallery, pause the video and match yours to what you see here. Once your block of code is partially correct, click Format Text to make it indented. Feeling good? Awesome, just a bit more. It's not intuitive what the drop-down is for, so let's place a wedding party label in front of it. Insert, text label, rename it Label Select Party. It's currently in front of the drop-down, but we need it behind. Click the 3 dots to move it or the shortcut keys you see above. Change the text property to Select a Wedding Party. For the X property, make it dropdown weddingparties.x. For Y, dropdown weddingparties.y. Change the fill property of the dropdown to transparent. Adjust the label's left padding so that it aligns with the text in your gallery. I'll use 15. Change the font color to something that stands out a bit. We don't need to always see this, so let's add a conditional formula to the visibility property. If the drop-down selected text is blank, then show this control. Otherwise, don't show it. Let's test it. Great, it works. First, we want to copy the reset drop-down formula we used in the search box's onChange property. Add it to the onSelect property. Let's test it. Exactly what we want. Now to fill in the drop-down. Rather than a formula, just move the label above the drop-down, but don't cover up the drop-down arrow. Set the fill to white. Too easy. And that concludes part 2. In part 3, we'll go further into visibility, data relationships, and nested galleries. Fun stuff. Contact me if you have any questions. Stay awesome. Have a blessed day. See you in the next one. And remember, be epic.